the Republican Party of Iowa, and proud veteran from Vietnam service, Kane Robinson.
All right, friends and neighbors, we'll start off this evening with an opening prayer, then the Pledge of Allegiance, and then the national anthem. The opening prayer by Pastor Wayne Barr, Little Sioux and Mondayman Church of Christ.
Would you please stand? Our Heavenly Father, we ask your blessings on our gathering and on our nation. We pray, Lord, that we may never take for granted our abundance, our liberty, those you have placed in our lives, and the peace that was purchased by your Son. May our hearts always be full of gratitude, reverence, and praise for you. We humbly ask, Father, for your guidance and protection of our nation. We pray for those in authority that they would be driven by righteousness and compassion. We pray for our people that we may be ignited by the flames of liberty and instilled by the awareness of what is right and wrong. We especially pray for justice. It seems, Lord, that today justice in our land is multi-tiered and sided with favoritism and political ambition. We pray for the helpless, the defenseless, the innocent. We pray for those on our southern border, the trafficked, the abused, those who are victims to violence and lawlessness. We pray, Lord, that those in positions that have the power to do something will be given the wisdom, the moral clarity, and the courage to act. We pray that there would arise men and women who would seek leadership, who would, out of the words of the prophet Micah, who would live out that the Lord has told you what is good, and this is what he requires of you, to do what is right, to love mercy, and to walk humbly with your God. We ask all this in your Son's name. Amen.
And now, the Pledge of Allegiance by State Representative Bubba Sorensen.
Thanks for being here. Welcome, fellow patriots. Please say the pledge with me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
And now, while we're standing, the national anthem by Senator Sherilyn Westridge.
Hello, everyone. If you feel so inclined, sing along. It's a beautiful song. Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the
now, David Barker, member of the State Board of Regents, a member of the Republican State Central Committee and finance chairman of the party, an author, a financier, a builder of buildings all over the Midwest, and just incidentally, a heck of a nice guy, David Barker.
Well, thank you. Thanks very much, Kane, and welcome all of you to the Horizon Center. I'm David Barker, treasurer of the Republican Party of Iowa. I'm also the owner of this building. Happy to have all of you here. Thank you. And I'm very pleased to announce that I'll be donating the fee for this event back to Faith and Freedom. Well, thank you. I'm humbled by the wonderful generosity that all of you show for the Faith and Freedom Coalition. And I want to take this opportunity to thank Faith and Freedom and Steve Scheffler in particular and his whole team for the great work that you do in Iowa. That's worth applause. Your voter outreach and education programs are second to none, and your lobbying efforts in Des Moines make a huge difference for our state. Now, back when Iowa was a presidential battleground state in a general election, we received more votes and more support and visits from presidential candidates. And in years when there's a U.S. Senate race, we also receive national attention. Now, this year, fortunately, Iowa is strongly for President Trump, and, hey, absolutely. And our wonderful senators, Chuck Grassley and Joni Ernst, are not up for re-election. But unfortunately, that might mean fewer campaign resources in Iowa this year. And that means that the work of the Faith and Freedom Coalition is more crucial than ever to keep our federal delegation 100% Republican and to keep our majorities, our strong majorities in the Iowa legislature. So your support is very important. Republican control of state government really is important. Just look at our neighbors to the north and east. You'll see out-of-control spending and woke policies that encourage crime and discourage virtue. You know, I've talked to sheriff candidates around the state recently, and they all tell me that the root of the problem, of crime problems here, comes from the border, and it's drugs, right? That drugs come across the border, people become addicted, they lose their jobs, and they turn to crime. Other states think that the answer is legalization and toleration. And that's another reason why it's so important to keep control of state government here in Iowa. Life is now a state issue, so state party control has truly become a matter of life and death. We have Republican majorities here, so why is it important for Republicans to maintain supermajorities in the legislature? Well, the supermajority in the Iowa Senate allows our great governor, Kim Reynolds, thank you, to make appointments without needing confirmation votes from Democrats. Now, I'm a member of the Iowa Board of Regents, and I can give you examples of why conservative appointments are important. First example, I am horrified by the support that terrorists receive at many universities around the country. Iowa universities have their problems, but because of Republican control of state government that you all helped to achieve, the Board of Regents took an official stand in support of Israel and against terrorism. Now, I told you 2 years ago about a trip that I took to Israel with our great Lieutenant Governor, Adam Gregg. Watching now as terrorists murder Jews and attack Israel with rockets and drones, I'm constantly reminded of how inspiring and faith-affirming that trip was. And all of you who have been to the Holy Land and walked where Jesus walked know exactly what I mean. Here's another example. The Board of Regents in Iowa took a stand against DEI programs, and we were supported by the Iowa House and Senate in a bill that passed yesterday morning. Without conservative appointments confirmed by the Iowa Senate, these accomplishments would not be possible. I've also worked to bring sanity to the debate about climate change. I've published 4 papers in a peer-reviewed academic journal and summarized it in Wall Street Journal articles showing that climate alarmists are wrong and that they are dishonest in the research that they publish. I thank Senator Grassley for inviting me to testify before the Senate Budget Committee, which greatly helped me to spread that message more widely. Now, we can work on conservative issues like life, support for Israel, drugs, DEI, and climate realism. But without Republican elected officials, it is hard to make progress. Your support of the Faith and Freedom Coalition helps make that happen. It is important work, and I'm honored to be able to make a small contribution to your cause. May God bless all of you and facilitate the great work that you do. Thank you.
Thank you, David. Now, I need to relate to you a fact from the news that is true from this date in 1979. President Jimmy Carter was paddling his canoe on his farm in Plains, Georgia. He was attacked by a swamp rabbit. The horrible beast, the rabbit, swam toward him, flashing its teeth and hissing. Either Carter or a Secret Service agent splashed the water with a paddle, which scared the fearsome beast away. The president was safe. That's a true story. You can look it up. Okay. Now, we have some introductions to make. And bear with me, these people have given a substantial part of their lives to our cause, to what we're doing, to good government. The Faith and Freedom Coalition has partnered with Iowa Right to Life and Pulse, Iowa. In addition to that, we have some friends that are very important. Tamara Scott, the National Committee woman of the Republican Party. Stand up, Tamara. Now I'm going to read the names of some people that are with us tonight from the Iowa legislature. And they've taken the time after the legislature has closed its session to be with us tonight, which is a pretty big deal if you sit day in and day out in the legislature and then you take the time to be with us at an event at the end of that. Representative Eddie Andrews, Representative Brooke Bowden, Representative Steve Bradley, Representative Julian Garrett, Representative Gan Gelbach, Representative Tom Gerhold, Representative Josh Meggers, Senator Dave Rowley, Senator Sandy Salmon, Representative Brad Sherman, Representative Bubba Sorensen, Representative Charlie Thompson, Senator Sherilyn Westrich, Representative Devin Wood, Representative David Young, Senator Brad Zahn, Representative Steve Holt, and Representative Martin Grabber. So thank you all. Obviously, the danger of doing a list like that, which we mean well, is that we sometimes forget someone that's here, and I apologize if that's the case. Now, the next speaker, which you can get me off the stage for, and you're going to like, Joni Ernst. United States Senator from Iowa. Before that, the Iowa State Senate. Auditor of Montgomery County. She knows how to figure out where the money is. As chair of the Republican Policy Committee since 1923. Ernst is the fourth-ranking Republican. 1923, you've been there a long time. And she's moving up. She's now running for the Republican conference chair, the number 3 position in leadership. And so we hope and wish her tremendous success. During the Iraq War, she served as a commanding officer of units in Kuwait and later commanded the Iowa National Guard's largest battalion as a lieutenant colonel. Our Senator Joni Ernst.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone. God bless you. Thank you. And Steve, wow, you and your team. This is a great turnout. Thank you all so much for being here and sharing in this moment. And I want to thank my good friend, Senator Katie Britt, for joining us tonight as well. Can we give it up for Katie? Yeah, it's great to be back. Chuck and Katie and I were on the floor late last night, about till midnight, voting on some of the pieces of legislation coming over from the House. So it's been a whirlwind weekend, but you know what? We're really glad to be here with you. And so again, I want to send my thanks out to each one of you because we've got a big year ahead of us. And as we know, faith and freedom will always be at the forefront and encouraging folks to get out there and just do the right thing. And speaking of that, I know some of you are aware, but just recently, in recent months, I have added a new family member. I have a precious grandson that joined us at the end of January. And he truly is a joy, and I have always been proudly pro-life, but watching my daughter become a mother has given me just a really fresh perspective on why we all fight so hard for life. There's nothing like the miracle of a sweet baby, and I'm so glad that he's joined our family. Over the recent months, you have seen folks that because of all the hard work that is done by Faith and Freedom, by other organizations, life is actually winning. And we see that across the United States. We've heard it from candidates. And because of the pro-life movement and the Trump presidency, the abortion issue has been returned to the American people and their elected representatives. And that's where it belongs. So yes. You know, here in Iowa, and I thank God we're here in Iowa. I know that Governor Reynolds and our legislature are fighting for life at every turn, and I couldn't be more proud. And I want to thank all of our state representatives and senators here. I truly appreciate all that they do in supporting life. So I'm going to touch a little bit about what's going on in the Middle East. And just over this last weekend, we all witnessed Iran's brutal assault on our friend and ally, Israel. And this, folks, was truly unprecedented. God bless Israel as she rightly defends herself against Iran and the Iranian-backed terror groups. So Republicans will always stand with Israel. We will always do that. You know, we are going to stand with Israel even when President Joe Biden waffles in his support in a feeble attempt to cave to the far left of his party. For more than 3 years, this administration has lined the pockets of the Iranian regime. We see this all the time. They are letting Iranian oil be sold outside of Iran. So Iran, of course, has a 5-year high of oil revenues to the tune of $80 billion. And that money goes to purchase the very weapons that have been used to attack, yes, even American servicemen and women in the Middle East, not just Israel, but American men and women. So, folks, this is all due to Biden's weakness and his failed leadership. And his appeasement strategy has never worked, and, folks, it never will. I'm fighting right now to force Joe Biden and his administration to actually enforce the sanctions that they put into place on Iran. We have to cut off their funding. We have to cut off their oil, and that starts by enforcing the law. So I'm going to keep working very hard to hold President Biden accountable and push back on America's adversaries. I'm going to jump topics a little bit. I know this one is really important to folks, but like many of you here tonight, I was so excited, and I was proudly cheering on our women as they went on to the NCAA basketball tournament and all through the playoffs. Yeah. Caitlin Clark is a rock star. So I was reminded, just watching these young women play in the tournament, of how important it is that all of our young women are given the opportunity to advance and succeed in their sport without being pushed off of the podium. And thankfully, Iowa has a celebrated history of exceptional girls' sports programs. So whether it's growing as a leader, whether it's winning a championship or securing a college scholarship, sports open doors for young girls. And I know this firsthand from watching my daughter play volleyball. But sadly, right now, Biden is working overtime to force institutions to allow biological males to share spaces with females and compete in women's sports. Thank you very much. So the doors that were opened about 50 years ago are being slammed in the faces of our girls across the country because of the progressive left's ideology when it comes to gender. Girls' locker rooms have become a battleground for the Democratic Party. And thankfully, here, again, God bless Iowa, thankfully, here in Iowa, Governor Reynolds has protected girls' sports. Thank heavens. In the United States Senate, I'm proud to have joined my Republican colleagues in supporting the Protection of Women and Girls in Sports Act. Under this legislation, any athletic program that receives federal funds and permits a biological male to participate in competitions designated for women or girls would be in violation of federal law and lose their funding. The time is now to pass this legislation. So, yeah, you bet. Done. So, folks, Joe Biden and the Democrats are slowly dismantling everything you and conservatives across our great nation have worked so hard to build. The Faith and Freedom Coalition is the largest faith-based advocacy group in the United States, and America needs all of you more now than ever. And I will be a champion for all of our shared values. And as I close my time with you this evening, I'm asking you to never give up. You must keep the faith. And with your help in 2024, we will return conservative values to the White House. We need your help with that. Yes. We need to see President Trump elected once again, and in the United States Senate and beyond. So God bless you all so much for all the great work that you do. Steve, once again, thank you for leading this incredible organization. Thanks, everyone. Enjoy Katie Britt this evening, and be safe. God bless you all. Thanks so much.
I think it's appropriate, although she had other important things tonight, that we acknowledge Governor Kim Reynolds. And now, the head of the Iowa Faith and Freedom Coalition, Steve Scheffler. He's president of the organization, Iowa's largest conservative faith-based organization, Republican National Committeeman, longtime leader in conservative politics. I think it was the 70s when he walked into my office and said we had to do some things. He, with all of us, built this. Steve Scheffler.
Thanks, Kane. Well, I'm thrilled that each and every one of you are here tonight. First of all, I want to thank all of you for coming, your generosity in your finances, your volunteer activities. I want to also thank my board that has been there with me from the day one to help make sure things run on time. I want to take special thanks to Heather and Diana and Jeff Ortez, who kind of helped do a lot of legwork with me to put this event together. All the volunteers that came early today and are going to continue to work through the night, pick things up, so thanks for all that you do. Thanks for our vendors, our people that had lit tables. Thanks for our young Republicans, the youth, and as I've told them before, someday I'm going to wear out. You young people are the future of this country. It's on your shoulders to save our country. So I also want to thank Chris Christensen for donating the water tonight. Also want to thank, I know some of you may not remember, but Teresa Garman, I don't know where you're at, but you can stand up. But Teresa Garman was a trailblazer. She was the only female legislator, Republican or Democrat, that was pro-life for years and years. And yes, I'm old enough to remember those days. Also, I think it's been mentioned, you saw on the screen, you want to come back for our fall dinner on September 21st. You won't meet it. Tom Homan, anybody ever heard of Tom Homan? I heard him in the Quad Cities in October. The border is the #1 issue with most of our voters. You will not want to miss that on September 21st at the Holiday Inn South that Tamara and Lowell Scott own. Katie, Britt, we're honored that you're here tonight. It's exciting to see young, intelligent, articulate females stepping up to the plate to save our country. Our country's at a tipping point, and I think you know that. A lot has changed since I first got involved in the early 70s. But above all, we need God returned to our homes and our classrooms. Nothing can function without God. Here's the deal. I'm going to tell you what Jeff Kaufman said, and I can't say it near as well as he does, but I'm just going to tell you that. We had a fair caucus process in the state, and as the National Committee man, I am proud of what you did. Our caucuses went without any major hiccups. Over 1,600 precincts and no big hiccups, all put on by volunteers. And you're all to be thanked for participating and making those run on time. You make Tamara's and mine, Jeff Kaufman's job a little bit easier. We're never out of the woods, but it makes it a little bit easier. But here's the deal. Anybody in Republican leadership could not endorse a candidate before the caucuses. And that's the way it should be, so it's a level playing field. Here's the deal. If you didn't vote for Donald Trump in the caucuses, that's fine. That's what the caucuses were for, to have a vetting process. But now that it's over, and we have a presumptive nominee, here's the deal. There is no perfect candidate. If you don't like Donald Trump's tweets, if you don't like some of his mannerisms, I get that. But the bottom line is you can elect to either vote for Biden, God forbid, or to sit out this election. But if you do, the burden is on your shoulders that the country is going to be on the downward path to have our country destroyed. Here's what you're going to get. So, and this is what else he said. So if you still don't like Donald Trump, you need to vote for him. We don't have time to hire a babysitter for you to make you feel better. We don't have time to hire a therapist to make you feel better. Get over it. Get on the train. Another trailblazer I wanted to mention in this room is Betty Odegaard, sitting over here. Religious liberty is one of the most important issues. This woman and her late husband lost their business, literally, because they refused to allow two men to be married in their facility, finding a caveat in the civil rights law. And if you think that religious liberty is not going to be impacted if the Democrats have complete control, think again. Because if your church doesn't adhere to a woke agenda, I guarantee you that day will come if they're in total control. In addition to religious liberty, the Democrats have a trifecta. They will pack the courts. The border will even get worse. Anybody in this room that's old enough to remember Phyllis Schlafly? She talked about a broken border 25 years ago. If she were alive today, she wouldn't begin to believe it. The first job of the federal government is to protect its American citizens. These people don't give a rip about border security, period. Voter integrity will be a thing of the past. Remember H.R. 1? They have complete control, and thank God the two Democrat senators, Sinema and Manchin, who stood in the way of getting rid of the filibuster, but guess what? They're not running for re-election. So the Democrats have control of the Senate. Guess what's going to happen? The Electoral College will be on a downward path to get rid of. The DOJ, the FBI, and the IRS will be even more weaponized against people like you and I. And Israel, do you think the Democrats have their back? We had 13 Democrats, was it yesterday, that did not vote for a bill condemning the attacks that Iran did on Israel. Shame on them. So the bottom line is, we've got to get Donald Trump elected, Zach Nunn reelected, all the other congressmen, whoever wins the primary, elected. There's no perfect candidate, but the Democrats are crazy and insane on steroids. And so this is not a Republican organization, but you name me one Democrat running for office, either at the state legislative level or at the national level, that supports our values in this room. There's none, zero. Thank you, I'm honored. Continue to support our efforts with your finances, your volunteer. Thank you so much.
Well, okay. Quickly, let me say this. Chuck Grassley was supposed to be here. Airplane, no land. So, I'll say one big sentence. I'm the chairman of his campaign. Bud Hockenberg over here is the president of his campaign. Stand up, Bud. Bud Hockenberg, president. About a 2-hour, 45-minute speech about Chuck Grassley. Justice Neil Gorsuch, Justice Brett Kavanaugh, Justice Amy Coney Barrett. That's the end of my speech. Now, in that vein, Attorney General Brenna Byrd. Wow. Do we have an Attorney General? What a change. Brenna served prosecutor for a long time, chief of staff for a congressman. She's tough, raised on an Iowa farm, homeschooled. Today, she is our Attorney General, Brenna Byrd.
Thank you, and wow, Kane, you gave a great speech on behalf of Chuck Grassley, naming all those wonderful justices we now have on our U.S. Supreme Court. That is the thing that is holding the line against the illegal actions of the Biden administration, but I'm going to add one more. and not Merrick Garland, right? Yeah. Thank you, Chuck Grassley. So, it's so good to be here tonight, and you're going to get to hear from a friend of mine, Matt Whitaker, and we've known each other for a long, long time. Very proud to have him serving in a key role as Acting Attorney General of the United States, a very special thing for Iowa. And Matt and I have known each other for a good while, and in fact, I even worked at his law firm for a little while, and someday he might tell you the story of how when things were opened up in the new offices and we didn't quite have the internet up and going, we were pirating the Taco Bell from across the street, right? So Matt and I have been through it in thick and thin, and we know he's a good, strong conservative, and I'm just so thankful to also call him a friend and a fellow Iowan. Thank you, Matt. And what a wonderful thing to have Senator Katie Britt here. She is a true leader, and I think the U.S. Senate would be even better off if they had more pro-life conservative moms in there that were focused on what matters. And I'm so thankful for Steve Scheffler and the whole team that we have here. I mean, look at all the people around you. You are what is making Iowa great and strong. And, when I look at you, I just want to say this. I appreciate your prayers, because I know a number of you have said that you're praying for me and our whole family. I would just ask you, add our staff to the list, too. Add our whole team, add their families to the list, please, to your prayers. We appreciate your prayers a lot, and I especially appreciate you supporting this organization, a key game changer right here in Iowa. Faith and freedom. It doesn't get any better than that, does it? So. And as I look out and see so many friends that I know, I just want to say thank you for supporting me in 2022, when together we defeated the longest serving Attorney General in U.S. history, and I couldn't have done it without you. And I've got somebody special with me tonight. My husband Bob is here, so thanks for sponsoring date night, Steve. We appreciate it. Well, I've got an update on how the battle's going. We are fighting, and it is going good. It is. We are fighting. We are pushing back. We are holding the line. I had something very special that recently happened. It's something that made anything that was tough about my campaign all worth it in less than an hour. Guess what that was? It was going to the Supreme Court to defend our heartbeat law, because life is precious and everybody deserves the chance to live. Oh, keep praying, but the arguments that we have are very strong, they are right, and really appreciate the legislature and the governor for coming back and giving me a heartbeat law to defend. It's so important that we protect innocent human life. Another issue we really need to pay attention to is election integrity. And I want to let you know we are focused on that. Our office prosecutes election crimes in Iowa. We have put good resources into that, but election integrity is so important. And alongside that, I also think prosecution integrity is important. I'm a prosecutor, a county attorney, and I know how important justice is. I know how important it is to keep our community safe and to protect crime victims. But nothing makes me both sadder and madder than to see the prosecution process used for political purposes. I never took account of that when I was a prosecutor. I never knew somebody's party, and even if I did, it would not have mattered, because we are working for justice. That's why they call it the criminal justice system. And I just want to say this, what is happening to President Trump is absolutely wrong, isn't it? It's absolutely wrong. But it just shows you the importance of taking our country back, because if that can happen to him, it can happen to anybody. Yes. A couple other things we've been working on. We've got some lawsuits to secure the border, to hold the Biden administration accountable there. Never thought we'd have to defend Texas's right to defend their own borders, but we are, and we do. We stand with Texas. We stand for a secure border. And in our office, we also defend the laws that the legislature passes, that the governor signs. And one that we're defending right now, other than Heartbeat, is the right that parents have to protect the books that their kids would see in our classrooms and in our schools. No explicit books, K through 6. You know, and I am suing TikTok too, because they have explicit material on there, and they say it's appropriate for 12 and older. Obviously not true. So we are holding them to account as well. And, you know, there was another one we just joined. You may have heard about it. Remember back when we sued the federal government over their illegal student debt cancellation and took it all the way to the Supreme Court, won, and got rid of that. That was a big victory for the rule of law and what's right. But, you know, now that it's an election year, what's happening? Oh, they're doing it again. So we're suing them again. I think I'm in a room of people who strongly support Israel and stand with Israel, aren't I? Please know that that's an issue that's very close to my heart. And let us never forget what happened on October 7th and what continues to happen there in Israel. We're not going to give up. We're always going to stand with Israel for their right to exist, to survive, and to defend themselves against terrorists. You know, I am really thankful for the strong leaders that we have here in Iowa, and sometimes I get to see what other states are doing, and I count my blessings, because this does not happen by accident, does it? It takes a lot of hard work as you're helping those candidates, and as our legislators are serving, and our governor, who's awesome. You know, I call her the Caitlin Clark of governors, because every state would want her leading their team. You know, she is fantastic. And I'm proud of the legislators that are here today, because I think a lot of you wouldn't have got home until 4:30 this morning with the adjournment. So there were some brave souls here. But there's something I really want you to do for me if you would, okay? So when I replaced somebody who got elected in 1978, there was a lot of, we'll call it rebuilding we had to do. We had to rip it down to the studs and build out an office. And certain parts of the office really didn't exist. The lawyers to hold the Biden administration accountable. Yeah, we didn't have any of those. And then enough prosecutors to try those important cases around the state so that we got justice in murders and rapes and cases involving child molesters, very important cases to all of us. And so I went to our legislature with a pretty big request of what I would need to help rebuild the office so it can be the things that we talked about. And we know they're fiscal conservatives, and we're all careful with taxpayer dollars, but I want you to say a special thank you to your legislators and the governor when you see them, because they were able to give our office more funds. So after the bill that just passed this week, I'm going to be able to hire more lawyers to hold the Biden administration accountable and more prosecutors to lock up the bad guys. I appreciate that so much. And it does my heart so much good when I see the bad stuff that other states are doing to our law enforcement officers, our heroes. And I know that here in Iowa, when I need more money to prosecute law enforcement officers' cases, the legislature, their support is strong and unwavering. They care about it just like you do. A big thank you for that. I had a couple people ask me this question tonight, so I think I'm going to address it just in case it's on your mind too. Several people have come up to me and say, oh, what are we going to do about this fall? You know, how's it going to go? How are things going to be with our country after the next election? Well, we're going to work hard, aren't we? Yeah. But don't worry, because I know that President Trump is going to fire Biden and he's going to win our country back, isn't he? And we're going to help him do it. And I think it really tells us something when the things that the other side have focused on, even though they have the incumbent and the party in power and, you know, they should be touting their accomplishments. I don't think they've accomplished much of anything but high inflation, an insecure world, and then just, well, you look at what the EPA does to agriculture and an out-of-control federal government. It goes on and on. They're bad accomplishments, right? But what is their strategy but to tie up our nominee in court? and engage in this war of misinformation against us. And that tells us, I think we're going to win. We need to fight the fight. We need to work hard. We need to do the right things. But we are going to win, and our country needs us to win this election. Absolutely. It is so important. Well, and I just realized, too, back when I was running for Attorney General back in 2022, I should have probably told you something. The job of Attorney General is only my third most important job. So I never did tell you that you were going to come in third when you hired me. But you might ask yourself, what are the other ones then, right? What's more important than fighting the Biden administration and standing up for innocent, unborn human life? Well, being Bob's wife, which is not hard, but it's important, and also being Beckett's mom. Job one, job two, Attorney General comes in third. And we know that when we have the right priorities, things fall into place. That's what it's all about. So I just want to tell you this. It's so good to be here with you tonight. It's so encouraging to see the heart that you have for our state and for our country. And know this, as long as I get to be your Attorney General, I will keep on fighting for what is right. I'll keep on fighting for our Constitution and the rule of law, and I'm just not going to let up. Thank you.
Dynamite. Steve Scheffler, come on up. Jeff Pitts, come on up. President of the Iowa Faith and Freedom Coalition.
First of all, I want to thank David Barker for his very, very generous heart and what he does to help this organization. So thanks, David. And I also want to thank Matt Whitaker. Matt Whitaker actually helped get Katie Britt here, and he got tired of me pestering me, or me pestering him, and he helped us get Tom Holman for our fall event, and he actually told me on the phone one day when I called him, I get the feeling I work for you. So, but anybody knows me, I'm pretty persistent, I don't give up. I also want to thank each and every one of our legislators who are here tonight for all that you do. Let's give them a round of applause. Legislators get a lot of heat, and even people in this room, or maybe myself, maybe look at one little vote that they cast, maybe complain, and that's fine, hold their feet to the fire. But a lot of times we don't lift them up in prayer. And secondly, we don't tell them when they do a good job. They need the moral support, because they get all the crap that comes from the far left. And so your job and my job is to encourage them, pray for them, and lift them up, and so that they will have the stamina to keep fighting the good fight. I'm going to introduce Jeff Pitts now. Some of you might remember him from last fall. Jeff Pitts has been an answer to prayer. You'll probably be seeing more and more of him down the road. I want to do this till the day I die, but I'm not getting any younger either. But Jeff Pitts has done a phenomenal job at the Capitol for us. In my view, he's got the right personality, the right temperament to push on issues that are important to faith and freedom, but not to be overbearing and obnoxious. And if you've not read his reports, and I think they're going to shoot his email up on the screen here shortly, aren't they? Are they going to do that? You guys going to do that? So anyway, if you don't get his reports, he sends them out about every 2 weeks. Really good, very detailed. But Jeff has done a great job, and I just can't say enough good about what he's done and what he's brought to this organization. So without further ado, Jeff Pitts.
All right, thank you. Thank you so much, Steve. Problem solvers. Good government demands good lawmakers who can get over or through or around stumbling blocks, not hysterical pretenders who deal in a world of make-believe. Hello, everyone. I'm Jeff Pitts. This is your Iowa Faith and Freedom Legislative Report. We see a sharp contrast down under the Golden Dome. On the conservative side, thankfully, we have an abundance of legit problem solvers, people who roll up their sleeves, get to the meat of an issue, and use common sense. Meanwhile, the other side, they don't deal in reality. They prefer a bizarro world with straight faces. They say boys can be girls, girls can be boys, tiny babies are just clumps of cells. And don't you dare disagree with them, because if you won't indulge in this twisted alternate universe, then you're an evil, angry bigot. But the people in this room, you, we, the legislators, conservatives, we're here with a fire hose of truth. Up is up, down is down, out is out, in is in, boys are boys, girls are girls, and all of it's A-OK. One man plus one woman equals one marriage. God is great. And the First Amendment of the Constitution is protected by the second one. We further believe in faith and family and one nation under God with liberty and justice for all. Thanks again to each and every one of you, to all the good and decent folks in this room, especially the legislators. Those state legislators, we thank God for the good ones that have been down at the Capitol. They were up there till 4:30. I know that's been said before, but working hard for us. And we thank God that we have more authentic problem solvers down there right now than we have pretenders. And like I said, they've been working hard, getting things done. This year's legislative achievements include AEA reform. That's Area Education Agency reform. It's not super exciting to most people. It's tedious and it was tiresome, I know it was. But it was much needed and it was important and it's done, and that's good. They also passed school safety efforts to make our classrooms safer for kids. They raised the pay for Iowa school teachers. They slashed state income taxes and made illegal immigration a state crime as well as a federal infraction. They also put protections in place against deepfake AI-generated porn and ditto for bans on bestiality. Can you believe we needed that one? But so the sessions go in 2-year time frames, and this was the year 2. This was the second year of session number 90. It'll be remembered, in my opinion, for 3 main things. School choice bill, which was done last year, makes private school affordable for about anyone with a desire to do so. And by judging by year number 1, there was an avalanche of applications. Almost 500,000 people applied for the program. This is going to change how education is done in Iowa for generations to come and for the better and for better outcomes. Please give them a round of applause again for that. Number 2, this year, they passed RFRA. RFRA is short for Religious Freedom Restoration Act. It won't restore the small businesses that were unilaterally destroyed in its absence, but it'll give future business owners a chance and a day in court. By the way, Steve mentioned earlier, Betty Odegaard's here today. Betty and her deceased husband, Dick, they had to shut down their wedding venue some years back for refusing to take part in what they believe sin, same-sex weddings. Let's hear it for Betty. Betty, will you stand? She stood tall, standing tall for having the courage of her convictions and for having a strong faith built on a rock. You have to have faith built on a rock to endure the hatred that overnight came her way. The last thing in this 2-year legislative time frame that we'll be remembered for, maybe more impactful than anything else. Let's not forget the special legislative session last summer to repass the fetal heartbeat bill, to protect unborn babies with a detectable heartbeat. Now, this effort is currently under review in the court system, so stay tuned. Keep your fingers crossed. And please, 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 keep tiny babies in your prayers and on your minds come Election Day. And that brings us to baby Olivia. Next year, we'd like to pass a bill that we couldn't quite get done this year. Now, we tried hard, but we just ran out of time. And we're going to be working on it again next year. We be meeting with legislators and trying to work on it. The Baby Olivia bill would arm Iowa kids with fundamental facts. Basic Biology 101, straight science about a baby's development from conception to birth. This is important. I have a question to ask each one of you, an honest question. Why wouldn't we teach this plain truth to young people in already mandated human growth and development classes? In fact, how could you rightly teach a human growth and development class and leave out the development that happens in utero? Right now, we're going to show the movie. It's a 3-minute video. It's titled Baby Olivia. It was made by Live Action. The left vehemently opposes our children seeing this video or one like it in Iowa classrooms. The law doesn't mandate this video, it mandates one like it. Please watch and ask yourself, what is the opposition so afraid of? You be the judge.
This is Olivia. Though she has yet to greet the outside world, she has already completed an amazing journey. This is the moment that life begins. A new human being has come into existence. At fertilization, her gender, ethnicity, hair color, eye color, and countless traits are already determined. She begins to implant in the uterus about 1 week after fertilization. Her cells organize into what we call an embryo. At 3 weeks and 1 day, just 22 days after fertilization, Olivia's heartbeat can be detected. The buds of her arms and legs appear by 4 weeks. She begins to move between 5 and 6 weeks with both spontaneous and reflexive movements. At 6 weeks from fertilization, her brain activity can be recorded and bone formation begins. She can bring her hands together at 7.5 weeks, and separate fingers and toes emerge. She can also begin to hiccup. At the beginning of the 9th week, Olivia will have grown from a single cell into nearly 1 billion cells, and she is now called a fetus. She will suck her thumb and swallow, grasp an object, touch her face, sigh, and stretch. At 11 weeks, she is playing in the womb, moving her body and exploring her environment. Her taste bud cells have matured by week 12, but are still scattered throughout her mouth. Her mother will first sense Olivia's movements between 14 and 18 weeks, an event called quickening. Beginning at 18 weeks, ultrasounds show speaking movements in her voice box. Around 20 weeks, with a lot of help, babies have survived outside the womb. At 27 weeks, her eyes are responding to light. She can recognize her parents' voices and will even recognize lullabies and stories. Olivia has gone on an amazing journey during these last 9 months. She will soon signal to her mother that it is time for delivery and greet the outside world.
That's incredibly controversial, no? That's what all the fuss is about. So why wouldn't the Clump of Cells crowd want that shown in human growth and development classes? I think we all know the answer. They're deathly afraid of the truth. The truth is on our side. A human's life begins at fertilization. Folks, that's a fact, and there's no serious scientific debate about it, not anymore. Unborn babies deserve the chance to live. They're not better off dead. We cannot and we will not quit on them. Your will, Lord, not ours, forever and ever. Amen. I'm Jeff Pitts. This has been your Iowa Faith and Freedom Legislative Report. We'll see you back here next year. Thank you. One more thing. Without further ado, I introduce to you a fast-rising star in the Republican Party of Iowa, a young and powerful thought leader, the state chair of the Iowa Federation of College Republicans. Did I already say fast-rising star? Whatever. Let's hear it. The one, the only, Mary Weston.
Well, good evening, everyone. My name is Mary Weston, and I'm actually the chair of the Iowa Federation of Young Republicans, not college Republicans. I do look like a college student, but that's okay. I'm here tonight to talk to you guys about the Iowa Young Republicans, as well as a cool opportunity coming up through the Iowa Faith and Freedom Coalition. But before I get into the nitty-gritty of my speech, I would be remiss if I didn't take this opportunity to thank some very special individuals in the room tonight. First, thank God I don't have to follow Matt Whitaker and Katie Britt. Next, I love to embarrass people. So young Republicans and college Republicans are out in the back there. Would you guys stand up, or any college or young Republican who's in the room tonight? I'm going to keep saying it till you stand. These individuals are proving to Democrats across the state that yes, young people can be Republican, and the woke mob is on its way out of the Hawkeye State, folks. I also have to thank Faith and Freedom leadership, but especially Iowa Faith and Freedom Chair and soon to be re-elected Iowa GOP National Committee man Steve Scheffler. It's really one thing to talk the talk, but Steve walks the walk when it comes to lifting up the youth of the Republican Party. Every time the Iowa Faith and Freedom holds an event, Steve makes sure to involve the college and young Republicans and make sure the cost of a ticket is not the barrier that prevents members from attending. I say time and time again that the opportunities that we are given through Faith and Freedom and Chairman Kaufman, Steve, and Tamara, and the Iowa GOP are not normal, and I couldn't ask for better leadership in the state of Iowa. And now for the reason I was actually asked to speak. The Young Republican National Federation, formed by Iowa's own President Hoover, is one of 3 auxiliary groups of the Republican National Committee, alongside college Republicans and Republican women. The mission of the YRNF is to recruit, train, and elect the next generation of Republican leaders. The YRNF is the oldest political youth organization in the United States, holding chapters in almost all 50 states, and has over 1,000 elected officials holding membership. Our group needs the help of every individual in this room. Don't let your kids, grandkids, nieces, nephews, and neighbors be silenced by the left. Have the tough conversations, invite them to Faith and Freedom events, and help them strengthen their beliefs. In the words of President Reagan, freedom is never more than one generation away from extinction. We didn't pass it on to our children in the bloodstream. It must be fought for, protected, and handed on for them to do the same, or one day we will spend our sunset years telling our children and our children's children what it was once like in the United States where men were free. Individuals interested in YRs or CRs can join at iowayr.com, look us up on social media, or come visit our back table to meet with current members. Each year, the Iowa Faith and Freedom Coalition offers scholarships to several young conservatives to attend the annual Faith and Freedom Road to Majority Conference. This year, the conference will be held June 20th through 22nd at the Washington Hilton in Washington, D.C. Last year's lineup of speakers included Vice President Pence, Governor DeSantis, Ambassador Haley, Fox News host Judge Jeanine Pirro, Senator Joni Ernst, Senator Tim Scott, Governor Chris Christie, Lieutenant Governor Mark Robinson, Carrie Lake, Governor Mike Huckabee, Alveda King, Senator Lindsey Graham, and a man who will be reelected in 2024, Donald J. Trump. So if you or someone you know is interested in attending, please apply for the scholarship. As someone who attended last year, I can promise this is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity you do not want to miss. If you have questions about the conference and what it's like, please find one of the Faith and Freedom board members, or you can come find Garrett Anderson, who at 7 feet tall is the easiest to spot in the room, myself, or Iowa Federation of College Republicans Chair Dylan Engelbrecht, who is at the back of the room. Thank you all for letting me speak tonight, and God bless.
Okay. Senator Brad Zahn, President Pro Tem of the Iowa Senate, former mayor of Urbandale. Because he's a very serious senator on our side, he has opposition. Let me say that again. Because he's a very serious senator on our side, he has opposition. Our friend, Senator Brad Zahn.
I love it. Yeah, thank you very much. I'm very humbled to be here today. I first want to say, this organization pushes hard. Steve Scheffler and Jeff Pitts has been an incredible addition to us as legislators, and we're not perfect. We try to do the best job we can, and I'm very proud of what we've gotten accomplished since we've been in charge and had the majority. But I just want to say, I want to recognize all the people that I serve with in the Iowa legislature. I'd like them to stand, if they're not asleep. Yeah, let's give them a hand. I look at every one of them, I see all of you standing there. These people are the legends that really push hard to do the right thing. And I can tell you, as I mentioned, we're not perfect, but I've been down there when the alternative was there. It's a huge sacrifice to do what they all do or what we do. I don't know, probably every one of us have had this last summer because of the upcoming special session that we had on Heartbeat. People at our front yard banging pans, shouting all kinds of profanities. And the same goes on a lot of our town halls that we have there. So I just really am humbled to be serving with these great people. And then we couldn't do it without the most incredible leaders that we have. Representative Grassley, who's the Speaker in the House, has done a great job, and Jack Whitfer. He's the best majority leader, best leader that I've ever had the opportunity to serve with. And keep him in your prayers. I just want a message that I want to give to all of you. You might know that I have this relationship with this guy by the name of Donald J. Trump. And I'm always very proud to say that I am the first elected official in the state of Iowa to support him. And this election is so important. I tell a lot of people, and I have people come up to me if they see me on TV with him, and I said they're upset because of a tweet he did or something he said, and I just tell everybody, get over it. Get over it. He's not a perfect man, but I can tell you this, we would not be having the discussion on trying to save the unborn if it wasn't for Donald J. Trump. I don't need to lecture you all how important this upcoming election is. Yeah, I'm going to be the #1 targeted race in the state of Iowa. You'll see a lot of bad things said about me. But I can tell you this, I would sacrifice my race to elect Donald J. Trump. Our country is in dire straits right now. We have to have him as our next president. And this group here, and I know we've got some distinguished speakers here today, this group here are the people that get things done. You are the door knockers. You're the people that stuff envelopes. You're the people that support the great cause that we're here tonight for, to protect the unborn. And to me, what's happened in society is common sense is gone. I can't believe, and I've told the president when we were traveling one time, I says, you know, we wouldn't have to do half of what we do down at the Capitol if there was common sense. I don't know why we have to vote for legislation telling a male has to go to a male bathroom or a female has to go to a female bathroom. I don't know why we have to have legislation that says that transgender men can't compete in women's sports. It's really the presence of Satan that is in our society has never been more prevalent. And that is why we have to fight. And that's why we got to door knock. And that's why we got to get around these candidates and these great people that are in this audience here tonight. So with that said, I love you. God bless all of you. And God bless the United States of America. Amen.
Okay, now, let's go to Attorneys General. Matt Whitaker. Acting Attorney General, U.S. Attorney for the Southern District of Iowa, put a lot of people in jail who belong there, apparently a new concept. These quotes will tell you where Whitaker stands. This is a quote, the chance of Donald Trump getting a fair and impartial trial in New York is nearly zero. The American people are paying the price for President Biden's failure to secure the southern border. Squatters shouldn't have any rights to the homes they steal. Matt Whitaker.
Hello, friends. How are you? That's right. You know what? I have heard from, we have had a revival in the state of Iowa. I have Senator Joni Ernst talking about the Hawkeyes. I have people calling it the Hawkeye State, which of course it is. But it is sure good to be with you. First of all, I have a lot of people that I'd just like to thank for all of the host committee on the back of this yellow flyer that's at your place. This is so important. All of you that have donated, that have bought a ticket, that are here to support this great organization, an organization that I have been in some means or manner involved in, whether it's, as a candidate, trying to convince you to vote for me. I know who didn't vote for me, by the way, because I lost, so there's a lot of you that actually didn't vote for me. I did house parties for Steve Scheffler all over this great state, several times, and I'm so happy to be with all of my friends, and it's just such a warm room, and so I appreciate you and your support of the Iowa Faith and Freedom Coalition. I also, I think everywhere we go, we have a debt of gratitude as Americans to make sure that we thank and support all of our veterans and those that serve in our armed forces. So thank you, veterans, and thank you, members of the military. And then, as you know, I had the great honor of serving in President Trump's cabinet as acting Attorney General, and everywhere I went in that role, and I already have my stuff falling off the lectern. This isn't going to go well, by the way. Everywhere I went as acting Attorney General, I would tell the men and women of law enforcement, the police officers, the sheriff's deputies, that they had our thanks, and most importantly, we had their backs. So let's thank the men and women of law enforcement. I was in Texas this week, and I got here today, back to my beautiful home state of Iowa. And so, I actually have some notes from the Hotel Drover in Fort Worth, where I wrote most of the speech, from the Post Oak Hotel yesterday in Houston, where I wrote the rest of this speech. I tried this speech out last night in Fort Bend County in Richmond, Texas, about 1,000 people, beautiful faces, beautiful patriots. And I told them exactly what I'm going to tell you now, which is, on the one hand, I feel a little bit like a comedian that's trying out a new routine, because as you know, during the caucuses, I traveled all over this state with President Trump. I was able to speak with many of you in small towns and in big cities, as big as they get here in Iowa, of course. I live here, so I know. But I was able to share a certain message about the meaning of the caucuses and what it meant to elect Donald Trump. And so I had that speech down, but I felt like, heading into the general, I needed to create a new speech and to do a better job of communicating how important this election is. And so I feel like a comedian at a comedy club a little bit, working on a new speech on the one hand, and then I also feel like the opening act for the Beatles, because we got just, Senator Katie Britt is a rock star. And so it's going to be very hard to warm you up as an audience and to make sure that you receive her well and the message she has. But the way I would frame tonight's speech is victory. As many of you know, I played for legendary head coach Hayden Fry at the University of Iowa. Go Hawks! And I was thinking about that experience in the concept of victory, and really, we prepared, we practiced, we worked in the off season, we worked as a team, we did great things. We went to Michigan and we beat Michigan. We went to Ohio State, we beat Ohio State. We played in the Rose Bowl. We did so many great things as a team, but it's an analogous, and those victories that we earned as the Hawkeye football team is very analogous to what this victory is going to be in the fall of 2024. And it's going to take all of us, it's going to take us all leaving it on the field and all doing everything we possibly can to win the victory. And then, of course, the next victory I'd like to talk about is the victory this fall for Donald Trump and Republican candidates up and down the ballot. First of all, I know I don't have to remind you of this, but just remember that Donald Trump not only delivered you a Supreme Court that issued the Dobbs opinion, but Donald Trump also every day fought for religious liberty. You don't see that out of this Biden administration. He also, as I noted earlier, supported the men and women of law enforcement. And I know everywhere I go now around this country, no one is feeling the love from the Biden administration if you're a member of law enforcement. In fact, you're feeling quite the opposite. You're feeling like you're being blamed for all of societal ills that their terrible policies are creating. Obviously, the border is the most important issue, but remember, it's not just a matter that Donald Trump had secured the border in his first term, and will do it again, certainly. But it's the two things that are happening at the border right now that are just mind-boggling and have to stop and will stop in a Trump administration. And that is the scourge of drug overdoses, especially fentanyl overdoses, and the amount of lethal doses that are currently entering our country through the insecure border. But then the crisis of, call it human trafficking, call it human slavery, but it is just unprecedented that our own federal government under Joe Biden is trafficking in children. It's atrocious. It must stop. It will stop with Donald Trump. And there's no doubt, this group and the folks in this room have done so much to protect and defend life. And the Dobbs opinion, and now with the heartbeat bill here in Iowa, this is a very, very pro-life state. And I think none of that would have been able to be accomplished without the first term of Donald Trump. And then, finally, I think we have to remember that the economy under Donald Trump was roaring. We had low taxes. We were eliminating 2 regulations for every regulation that was attempted to be put in place. And we ended up doing more like eliminating 8 regulations for every 1 regulation we put in place. And then we also had low interest rates and low inflation. Doesn't that sound amazing? Because that's coming back in 2025. And so I don't think there's any doubt that there's going to be a victory in 2024 in politics. But I know I don't come to the Faith and Freedom Coalition in Iowa, my home state, with all my friends, and talk about a victory in one election. Because you know that the victory was won on the cross. And the ultimate victory in our salvation has already been achieved. And so as I was thinking about what I was going to say, I just wanted to quote maybe the Phil Wickham song that you know so well, but it just needs to be reminded, because I think all of us need to change our viewpoint and our perspective on this. Because it says, when all I see is battle, you see our victory. When all I see is the mountain, you see a mountain moved. And then finally, we need to remember, if God is for us, who can possibly stand against us? So I just want to assure you that we are going to have a victory, because we've already had the victory in God and in Jesus Christ. And so I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart. When I was acting Attorney General, you know what continued to carry me? It was the prayers from my fellow Iowans. I felt it every day. I knew that you were praying for me. You were praying for my family. It was a beautiful thing. It got me through very difficult times, very dark times. And I just want to say how appreciative I am, because God is on the move and God works. And I want to thank you. I want to say God bless you. I want to say may God bless the United States of America. Thank you. Now, remember how I said I was the opening act? Well, now I get to bring out the Beatles, the real rock star. I get to bring out Senator Katie Britt. And I just want to say, I'm gonna let her talk about what she wants to talk about. But I met her before she was Senator Katie Britt, when she was candidate Katie Britt, and I was so impressed. It was at a small event with just a small group of folks, and I saw her speak, and I saw the passion she had, for this country. And I knew that she saw the challenges that we face as a country. I knew that she understood what it was going to take to fix it. I knew that she would be tireless in her advancing conservative policies and conservative ideals. You know, she's the first female senator from Alabama, and she is the youngest senator Republican in history. Youngest female Republican senator in history. So without further ado, my friend, Senator Katie Britt.
Wow. Matt, what an amazing warm-up act. I'm ready to go now. Pretty incredible. And just being in a place where we're talking about Jesus Christ and talking about his blood and the salvation that brings for each and every one of us is just incredible. So thank you for what you stand for. Thank you for allowing me to be here. And thank you for everything that you've given, not only to Iowa, but to our nation. We are certainly all better for it. So thank you, Matt. Thank you. Well, y'all, I am obviously from Alabama, so a long way from home, and I got a stark realization of that today when I stepped off the plane. I needed a parka. This is like full December weather for us in Alabama. I am just so thrilled to be with each and every one of you. I think one of the things we pride ourselves on in the South is Southern hospitality. But I have found that, as I've been told, Iowa nice is really, really good. I'm gonna have to go home, that's right. I'm gonna go home and tell people we got some steep competition here. Also a thing I've heard we have competition on, I went to lunch today. Senator Ernst was gracious enough to take me to lunch after we landed, and I noticed we had like fried green tomatoes and fried chicken, and I said, now wait a second. I said, we pride ourselves in the South on frying up everything and doing it to the best. She said, well, you clearly have never been to the Iowa Fair. So I promised I would be back so that I could see that for myself firsthand. Steve, thank you so much for the invitation to be here. Thank you for continuing to put this incredible group together. Faith and Freedom, this coalition, the spring kickoff, this is 24 straight years. This impressive gathering is just quite the accomplishment. And I am really honored to be a small part of your storied history. First, let me say from firsthand experience, you have one of the greatest delegations out there. So yes, you do, you do. You have two outstanding senators with Senator Chuck Grassley and Senator Joni Ernst. And your entire House delegation is great as well. And because of you, every single one of them share our Christian conservative values. You all are the ones who have turned this state red. Thank you. So they are stalwart leaders for your state. I am proud to call them friends, and I am proud to work alongside them as they fight diligently to make the Farm Bill about farmers again, right? When they fight to push back on EPA overreach, and boy, there is a lot of that. Whether it is making sure people understand the detrimental effects of WOTUS, or what small businesses mean to main streets all across Iowa, they are fighting diligently for you each and every day in Washington, D.C. I've also had the opportunity this evening to meet a number of local leaders, those that serve here locally and in your state Senate and state House. I tell you what, you got a good group. I heard that they were up last night until 4:30, finishing the work of the people. And I heard, yes, that y'all got an exceptional educational freedom school choice bill through, and I want to say thank you. Thank you. No child's zip code should determine their opportunity. It shouldn't. and making sure that people know that education is the pathway out of poverty, it is the pathway to achieve the American dream, and then doing something about it is how we change lives, and that's what the men and women of your legislature did. I also got to meet your Attorney General, and she's exceptional. I asked her what all she did, and she said, well, I just sue the Biden administration all the time. Right? I said, you have no shortage of material, no shortage of material. But truly, you all exemplify the very best of our republic. In your rigorous vetting process when it comes to presidential candidates, we all sit and watch, we all sit and listen, we all trust your instincts and learn from afar. This place reminds me a lot of where I grew up, a small town in rural southwest East Alabama, a region called the Wiregrass, bordering the Florida Panhandle and right there next to Georgia. It's called Enterprise, Alabama, and it's a place that I will forever be proud to call home. It's a community that's built on agriculture, on small business, and military. It's where you're taught from the earliest days of life that the most important things in life are faith, family, and freedom, right? Y'all, I never imagined I would run for public office. So when you think about this, I had an opponent that was polling at 65%, and I was polling at 2. All right, for those of you who don't know much about polling, let me read you in real quick. If you put your name on the ballot, you get to 4. So the fact that I could only get to 2 is really quite remarkable, but not in a way that inspires confidence. But I knew that our state was worth fighting for. I knew this nation was worth fighting for. When my husband and I looked around, we don't recognize the country in so many ways. And we believed that if our generation doesn't step up and fight for the next generation, there's not going to be anything left for our children to fight for. We believe in our Christian conservative values. We believe that's what this nation was founded on. We want our children to be taught to love this country and to stand for our flag. We want them to respect our courageous law enforcement officers. We want them to know that those men and women in uniform are putting it all on the line to keep our country safe and secure. And we believe that's what's at stake. And that's what I want to talk to you about today. No matter who you supported in the caucus, no matter what bumper sticker is on the back of your car, what I am asking you today is to realize that the choice in November is clear. It is between President Trump and Joe Biden. Freedom, prosperity, liberty, love of country, and a nation that we have seen in the last 4 years move in the wrong direction in every single way. I want y'all to know President Trump knows that secure borders, stable prices, safe streets, and a strong defense are the cornerstones of our great nation. And on the other hand, you have the complete opposite in Joe Biden. Under Joe Biden and his administration, our values of faith, family, and freedom, the ones that make this nation so special, are under attack. And unfortunately, every day that Joe Biden is in office, we are weaker and more vulnerable as a nation. And so, folks, there is no doubt that he has made us less safe at the border, abroad, and here at home. So let's start with the border. I am the ranking member of the Homeland Security Appropriations Subcommittee. Now, let me tell you something real quick. When I came into the Senate, I was 100 out of 100. So if you want to know what the bottom looks like, right here. So, when I get slotted on the Homeland Security Subcommittee, I started thinking to myself, wow, that's a really big subcommittee. It's kind of far up there. How in the world did 100 out of 100 get that? It didn't take me too long to figure out it's because nobody else wanted it, right? So it has jurisdiction over entities like the Coast Guard, like FEMA, TSA, the Secret Service, multiple agencies that handle border security-related enforcement from the Department of Homeland Security, including Customs and Border Protection and ICE. Courageous men and women that work for these different agencies and departments. I went to the border 3 times my first 2 months in office because I didn't just want someone to tell me about it. I didn't just want to read about it. I wanted to see it firsthand. I wanted to look at those men and women and ask for the real, unvarnished truth. Unlike Joe Biden, whose one trip he went and they cleaned it all up and gave him a sanitized version. I was actually at the border trip that was led by Senator Joni Ernst. Representatives Miller Meek and Finstro were right there with us. This is where I got to see the stark difference in how California and Texas are handling the crisis. I can't thank Senator Ernst enough for inviting me on that trip. It was eye-opening. She has been such a strong leader on border security issues for the Republican Party, and of course, a long list of other issues, including making sure she stands with our servicemen and women and protecting our farmers. But I was honored to attend that with her, and I am grateful for her friendship. One of the things I'll never forget from our trip to San Diego last year was meeting with a DEA official. One of them shared an especially heartbreaking story. They told us about a family who had 2 boys. Those boys bought a pill off the black market. They split it. They thought it was a Percocet. It was actually laced with fentanyl. Both of their boys died. The pain those parents continue to face, that type of unimaginable loss in every corner of our country, because Joe Biden is failing us. Every single state in this country is a border state. Every single community is feeling the effects of him not doing his job. And I know that Iowa is no different. You are facing the consequences of the border crisis just like my home state is. And we can't lose sight of how truly unprecedented this is. The numbers do not lie. It's levels we have never seen before. There have been more than 9.4 million illegal border crossings under the Biden administration. That is more than the populations of Iowa and Alabama combined. In fact, if you put all of those people in one place, it would make it the 11th largest state in our nation. The Biden administration completely failed in its duty to keep our homeland safe by starting with securing our border. It was disappointing, but not surprising, to see Senate Democrats prevent the Senate from even fulfilling its duty and holding a full public trial of impeachment against Secretary Mayorkas. Schumer didn't even let us hear the evidence. That's a new low for him. But you know what? I think it was his plan. He doesn't want the American people to see how the Democratic Party is truly failing us at every turn on the border. The truth is, it is open season for drug cartels, human traffickers, violent criminals, and terrorists, the absolute worst of humanity. First, let's talk about human traffickers. So at the border, we don't have the numbers yet for FY23 or FY24, but FY22, 856 people died trying to cross the border, the deadliest year in history. If you look at the limited data that we have for FY23, 71 to 148 people were killed just in the El Paso sector alone. The suffering doesn't stop there. There is absolutely nothing humanitarian about this. Women and children are being raped and trafficked at record levels. Human trafficking went from a $500 million business in 2018 to a $13 billion industry today. That massive increase in profit represents massive increases in victims. And drug cartels. Speaking of, let's talk about that drug trafficking. It's hitting us especially hard in Alabama, and I know you feel it here too. In 2023, the DEA alone seized more than 77 million pills, nearly 12,000 pounds of fentanyl powder. That is more than 386 million deadly doses, more than can kill every single person in this country. Meanwhile, the CBP seized an additional 27,000 pounds of fentanyl, almost all of it at our southern border. That's double the numbers seized the previous year. And record high fentanyl seizures account for only that they can actually detect. And do you know what they say? They say that is probably only 5 to 10% of the fentanyl that's coming into our nation. There is no doubt there is devastating consequences, and there are kitchen tables all across our country with an empty seat because of this disastrous public health crisis. It is actually, fentanyl poisoning is the leading cause of death between the ages of 18 and 45 in this country. However, President Biden's FY25 budget request had no new funding for non-intrusive inspections, equipments at port of entry, and only marginal new investments in counter-fentanyl labs. He actually, believe this or not, cut the Department of Homeland Security's budget in his presidential budget proposal. He cut it. Don't you know where people put their money is what they actually care about? We all know that, right? He cut it by $1.25 billion. This is the second year in a row that we've seen cuts to Homeland Security. Now, it's not that he's cutting everything across the board. He increases things that he thinks are important. He increased EPA last year by 19%, and he increased EPA this year by 20%. Folks, enough is enough. And speaking of priorities, the number of violent criminals that Joe Biden's mass migration agenda is bringing across our southern border shows just how much this administration puts America last. Let's think about President Trump. Joe Biden actually inherited the most secure border of all time. President Trump knew what it took to secure our border, and he was unafraid to do it. Joe Biden came in, and in his first few days, he said, we are going to stop construction of the border wall, we're going to halt all deportations, and we are going to create a path to amnesty for everyone here illegally. What did that do? It acted as an immediate magnet for people to come here. In the first 100 days, he undid, with 94 executive orders, the progress that President Trump had made. And look at the result. You don't have to look any further than Laken Riley's murder in Georgia. President Biden chose to bring her murderer into the country through his blanket parole program. I want you to know this, because I don't think enough people are talking about this. When it comes to presidential parole authority, the president has that flexibility to use that. President Trump used that to the tune of about 5,600 people a year. Do you know how many people Joe Biden is paroling on average into our country? Now let me remind you, President Trump, on average, 5,600 people a year. Joe Biden, on average, 1 million people a year. Let that sink in. He is abusing the parole system, and American families are suffering devastating consequences. The truth is, he could stop that today. But even after tragedy upon tragedy, he refuses to reverse course. That's why I am proud to be the lead Senate sponsor of the Laken-Riley Act. I want you to know how radical the Democrats have become, though, because they actually voted the Laken-Riley Act down. They blocked it. They blocked it. And the same thing happened when we had a similar related amendment to an appropriations bill. I think this perfectly sums up the choice in November. After Laken-Riley's tragic and brutal murder, we saw in the State of the Union Joe Biden get her name wrong. And then that Saturday, we saw him not apologize to her family, not say, I want to get this right. Her memory and dignity deserve that. No, we saw him apologizing to her alleged murderer for mislabeling him as illegal. At that very same time, we saw President Trump embrace her family. That is what is at stake in November. I want someone who understands that we cherish our children. We want what is best for them, not someone who seems to place their priorities elsewhere. Finally, tonight, we have to consider the national security threat from terrorists and foreign adversaries that is inflamed by this border crisis. We have a number of what is called special interest aliens that have been encountered at our border for the first 6 months of the fiscal year. We actually had an amendment that was going on to a bill that would say you have to detain these special interest aliens at the border. Guess what? Democrats blocked it. We're talking about nearly 25,000 individuals from countries in the Middle East and Asia and Africa. The State Department has identified as being of particular interest on the global war on terror. It's Iran, Lebanon, Syria, Pakistan, Yemen, Egypt, and Turkey. Then there are individuals on the terrorist watch list itself that are coming to our border. I don't know if you saw this, but back in December, the FBI director was in front of the Senate Judiciary Committee. And the question was posed. Before 9/11, there were signs that we all missed. There were lights that were blinking that we didn't see. With what's going on at the border, with the fact that we've had 351 encounters at our ports of entry of people on the terrorist watch list under Joe Biden, whereas under President Trump, there were only 11. What do we need to know about what's going on in the interior of our country? And the FBI director said, there are blinking lights everywhere I turn. Folks, this is a disturbing reality, particularly when you take into account that we have 1.8 million people who are called known gotaways. Those are people that we saw, detected, but we never touched gloves with. We don't know who they are, where they're going, or what their intentions are. 1.8 million. How many terrorists? This administration is making it more likely, not less likely, that there is a national security catastrophe on American soil. And when you look at what's happening abroad, I've had the opportunity to meet with some leaders of our allied countries across the globe. And what they will tell you is that the way we left Afghanistan sent shockwaves, not just through the region, but across the entire globe. I had a leader look me dead in the eyes and say, I don't know if you understand, but you've been the supreme leader of this world because people fear you. No one fears people who execute like that. He said, not only do we not fear you, but we no longer trust you either. And he said, I have finally realized that if we don't fear you and you don't trust you, I can't move the location of my nation. Iran is there, China is there, and I have finally figured out I'm gonna have to do this on my own. That is how foreign leaders are reacting to Joe Biden's leadership. He does not understand that you actually achieve peace through strength. But I will tell you who did, and who sure does, and who will bring it right back to the White House, and that is President Donald J. Trump. It is what Ronald Reagan preached and Donald Trump practiced. And aren't we all ready for it to be what America exhibits again? Aren't we? But thanks to Biden's weakness, our enemies are emboldened. We are seeing an emboldened Russia, an emboldened China, and an emboldened Iran. I want you to think about this with Russia. They only have invaded Ukraine twice. Once during Obama-Biden, and once during Biden-Harris. There is a reason we did not get into any new wars under President Trump. People feared him. Joe Biden's weakness, it invites things like this. President Trump's strength, it deterred it. Joe Biden can't keep our people safe, and the world knows it. And then you look at China. The Chinese Communist Party, to me, is our pacing threat. It is truly our greatest geopolitical and economic threat. And really, everything the CCP does, y'all, I want you to know this, is as our adversary. And yet, Joe Biden continues to let China gain steam. Look, just last month, China released its new defense budget. Now, we talked a little bit about budgets. What did we say about Joe Biden and Department of Homeland Security? It was actually a base budget cut. Well, same thing with defense. It doesn't even keep up with inflation under President Biden. If you look at what China did, though, for the third year in a row, they've done an increase of over 7%. Let me tell you why that matters. When we know that there is potential of conflict there in the Indo-Pacific, we looked at China's military power report and look at China's Navy versus our Navy. In 2023, they had about 370 warships. It's going to go up, and then by 2030, they will have 435 warships. Now, on the other end, there's us. We have 291. Under Joe Biden, we will go down. By 2030, we can get back up to 290. So you're thinking about that correct? China with 435 by 2030, and us with 290. This comes right after we've learned from some declassified information from the Navy that China can actually build ships at 232 times the capacity of the United States. Folks, China's threat doesn't just exist there. They engage in unfair trade practices. They undercut the American worker. They are persecuting Christians. And they are committing genocide on the Uyghur population. And I also don't want you to be lost in just defense and just economic power, which are so critically important. But I want you to know what they're doing to our children. I said it in my State of the Union response, but the CCP knows that if they control the minds of our next generation, then they will control America. This TikTok bill that came out of the House is so critically important. It is a first step. It doesn't go far enough, but it forces the sale of ByteDance. What I want to see is I don't want to see those servers stay in China. I don't want them to have access to our data. I don't want them to be able to control our algorithms. I want you all to know what happens when a new user gets on TikTok. So the first 2.6 minutes that you're on TikTok, you are fed algorithms about suicide. The first 8 minutes that you're on there as a new user, you are fed algorithms about eating disorders. Now, we know our kids are not on there for minutes. The studies show that our children are on social media apps 4.8 hours a day. We have seen the rate of depression grow amongst our young people. It more than doubled between the years of 2011 and 2019. That coincides perfectly with the rise of social media. 1 in 3 high school young women last year said she actually considered death by suicide. And then 9% of our high school kids actually attempted death by suicide. When will enough be enough? Those servers cannot remain in China. It is like digital fentanyl. We have to make sure that we protect our children. And last but not least, before we come back to the United States, let's talk about Iran. Folks, when is this administration going to wake up? When? You look at the way that they are choosing to not enforce sanctions. We saw how it should be done. President Trump had a maximum pressure campaign when it came to sanctions. He knew if we just could squeeze Iran dry financially, that people would be safer and that our country would be stronger. We have an administration that refuses to do that. I'll give you an example. Iran has had about $80 billion in oil revenue since they took office. They have the exact same tools as the Trump administration. They're just refusing to use them. They decided to step away from the Pompeo doctrine and actually start sanctioning Israeli citizens. At the same time, 2 weeks ago, that they waived yet another $10 billion for Iran. Every dollar that Iran has, that's more money for nuclear proliferation, and it is more money to fund terrorism. They fund Hamas in Gaza, they fund the Houthis in Yemen, they fund Hezbollah in Lebanon. We must be tough on Iran. When you saw the 300 drones, the attack on Israel's homeland, you wonder what it's going to take to get this administration to wake up. And speaking of Israel, I believe as a Christian and as an American, we must stand with Israel. Remember what Genesis chapter 12, verse 3 says. I will bless those who bless you, and him who dishonors you, I will curse. And in you, all the families of the earth shall be blessed. Yes, yes. When people are confused about whether or not we need to stand with Israel, I say, get in the Word. Get in it. I actually visited Israel about 2 weeks after October 7th. Remember, Israel was created so the Jewish people would never have to hide again. And I was particularly struck by a conversation with former Israeli ambassador Ram Dermer. Somebody asked him, and we were having a conversation about his children and the children of Israel, and one of my colleagues said, I remember after 9/11, my daughter asking me, Dad, are we safe? He very carefully said, while there are similarities to your 9/11, this is very different. You woke up on September 12th, and the enemy was oceans away. We woke up on October 8th, and the enemy was only a few miles down the road. And this enemy has said, we will come back again and again and again until we eradicate the Jewish people from this planet. These barbaric individuals are sick, depraved terrorists. They wore GoPro cameras on their head. I have seen some of the footage. Y'all, words cannot describe it. It is beyond anything you could ever comprehend. It is akin to some of the evil that occurred during the Holocaust, but videoed to inspire others. Make no mistake, what Hamas did was pure evil. They murdered entire families. They beheaded babies. They dragged grandparents, some Holocaust survivors, from their wheelchairs to a brutal death. They raped women. They burned parents alive in front of their children and murdered children in front of their parents. Then they have taken innocent people hostage and are using them as a human shield. Folks, despite all the differences we may have across the globe, surely we can come together knowing that evil is evil, right? President Trump was the most pro-Israel president in our history. Yes. Iran didn't use their proxies. They didn't attack while he was president. He achieved the Abraham Accords. He moved the embassy to Jerusalem. He stood firmly with Israel when he was in the White House, and when we put him back, that's exactly what he will do again. Last thing I want to touch on before I wrap up is here at home. This economy, everybody knows that Bidenomics is not working, right? We knew that our dollar went further under President Trump. We knew gas prices were down. It didn't cost us as much to go to the grocery store. We knew that President Trump put America first. Prices are up 19.4% across the board. It doesn't matter if you're talking about eggs, gas, butter, rent, milk, anything, it's gonna cost you more. Meanwhile, real averages are down by nearly 4% under Biden. Guess what? Under President Trump, they were up 8.2%. Across the board, American families' finances are being decimated with Joe Biden in the White House. And so, that's right. And while Bidenomics is failing the American people, the Biden administration has put our Christian conservative values in its crosshairs. It continues to put the far left radical agenda above common sense and what is best for our nation. Just look at how extreme they have gotten on abortion. Thanks to President Trump and Dobbs, we have the opportunity to protect life in every state across this country. But they are so far left that the Hyde Amendment, that's been bipartisan since 1977, Joe Biden didn't put it in his budget. And when I had the Secretary of HHS in front of me this week, I followed up on a question from Senator John Kennedy. Now, y'all all know John Kennedy can ask some good questions, right? You never know where John's going, and then at the very end, just wham, he just nailed you. So John was asking a question to him about how far he felt like abortion. He said, what about 39 weeks? What about, he was going back and forth. And so I picked up on that. I said, I want to start with where he left off. You didn't put the Hyde Amendment in your agenda. He very proudly said, President Biden wants to remove the Hyde Amendment from budget proposals, and that is what he's done. So I said, well, let me follow up on that question then. So you believe my taxpayer dollars should go to fund abortion? Then I said, so that 39 weeks, if a woman wants to take the life of her child, you believe that I should pay to do that? And we went back and forth. I wanted to make sure he understood what that meant. And you know, when the far radical left, which in 7 states and the United States of America and the District of Columbia, you can take the life of a child the moment before the child is born. I wanted him to understand what that meant for him asking me to send my taxpayer dollars to do that. And I said, in order to get that child out, you know, they have to deliver that child breech. They then stick scissors up that child's neck. They then suck out that child's brain in order to collapse that skull to get them through the birth canal. You want me to pay for that. They are so radical, so far left. And we see that also when it comes to women's sports. Folks, what have we seen over the last week? It's stuff I didn't think I'd see in my lifetime. And this community right here has shown us how great women's sports is. Caitlin Clark is the real deal. You've got all of us watching that, all of us, everybody cheering for her. And so we've got to make sure that we stand up for our values and stand up for the next generation, stand up for the unborn, stand up for all of these things that the left wants to take away. So whether it's the border, overseas, or here at home, America can't afford 4 more years of Joe Biden. It is time for us to put President Trump back in the White House. Yes. He's going to secure our border. He is going to restore law and order. He's going to achieve peace through strength. He will cut taxes. He will slash red tape. He will get the government out of your way. He's going to unleash American energy so that we can be dominant again. He will fight for our tremendous farmers, rebuild our domestic manufacturing, and he understands that small business is the heartbeat of America. So, in order to do this, in order to get him back in the White House, for us to take a Senate majority and to make sure we hold on to the House, we need you. You've heard it tonight, but I'm going to say it again. You make the difference. You talking to your friends, you talking to the people at church, you walking up to a neighbor, shaking their hand and explaining to them what's at stake will be the difference. We need you in every community, in every race, whether it is state Senate races, local elections, or for the President of the United States of America. I am urging you to get engaged. We know what's at stake. We know that our children deserve more. The Republican Party is the party of hardworking people, parents, and families. Our Christian conservative values are what make this nation so special, and they are worth fighting for. So get engaged, whether it is door knocking, whether it is going home tonight and tomorrow and calling 10 friends. We need you to get energized. We need you to build momentum. And last but not least, we need you to pray. Thank you for your prayers. We can feel them. We need them. We need to pray for our leaders. We need to pray for our candidates. We need to pray for our country. The power of prayer is real, and we know that it makes a difference. If we continue to turn to the Lord, if we keep our eyes on Him, if that's where we draw our strength, we can overcome any earthly crisis before us. So, folks, I believe we can do this. I believe we see and know what is at stake. Again, I want to thank you for having this Southern girl to the heart of the Midwest. I understand now why they call this America's heartland. It means the world to me. It is an honor. It is people like you that make this country so special. And it is because of you that we will save this nation for the next generation. May God bless you. May God bless Iowa. And may God bless the United States of America. Thank you. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you all. Thank you all so much. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you.
Well, after that, you're probably glad to hear me make a speech. Isn't she great? Now, John Harbison, Faith and Freedom Coalition Voter Education Director. And a good guy.
Thanks, sir. Wow. As a citizen of the great state of Alabama, just roll tide, Senator. Good job. That was a great speech. We appreciate you being here tonight, and we appreciate Senator Britt and what she does for the people of Alabama and for us in our nation's capital. I have 3 housekeeping items. If you'll hold on with me for a second, just listen to 3 items. First, our Road to Majority Conference is coming up in June 20th through the 22nd. It's at the Washington Hilton. We're going to have speakers. We're going to have breakout sessions. We have a worship service. We have a gala. It's a great time. We'll have a Capitol Hill visit. For the people that are here tonight, if you'll go to our website tonight, ffcoalition.com, that's the national website, click on Road to Majority, and when you go and register, if you use the code Iowa in your discount code, it will give you a free ticket. So that's a $150 value. It will be free tonight if you use Iowa in your discount code. And Ralph doesn't know that I'm actually giving away free tickets, Steve, but hopefully we'll give out a lot, and I'll ask for forgiveness later. But second, Senator Britt talked about it, everyone's talked about it tonight. This fall, with the election coming up, the folks that support Iowa Faith and Freedom do such a great job helping us with our DOOR program, helping us reach out and get church voter guides out to churches across this state. Chairman Reed has asked us, Adam, my deputy Adam in the side over here, and me to go and hit 10 million home visits this cycle. We're going to send millions of text messages. We're going to make millions of phone calls, send millions of pieces of mail. We can't do that without you. So you can also go to our website. You can sign up to Canvas for us and go, regardless of the size of your community, if you can hit 20 homes for us, or if you can hit 500 homes for us. We've got volunteer opportunities available. We have paid opportunities available. If you can give us 10 hours a week from August to November, we'll pay you. So just go sign up on the contact tab on our website, ffcoalition.com. In the little comment section, say, I want to be on the Iowa DOOR team, and we'll reach out to you. We're going to start hitting doors in this state August 1st. So get ready. It's coming. It's going to be here before we know it. Finally, now, Steve Scheffler calls this a bucket. I grew up on a farm in North Alabama. That's not a bucket. But I don't think you can put hydraulic oil in that thing. But on each table, we have a bucket and an envelope. We're asking tonight, like you've always been grateful, and so we're so thankful for your support in the past. We're asking for donations. I called Ralph and I said, Ralph, Steve wants me to give the pitch and talk about, where we spend the money. So all the money that was raised here tonight stays here in Iowa. We don't send any of it to Atlanta. We don't send any of it back to Washington with Patrick. It all stays here. And he said, yeah, do a match, John. Always do a match. Let's do 3 times. So every dollar that comes in, we'll match it 3 times with national money. And I said, Ralph, Steve is on me like a duck on a June bug this time. We've got to do better. So we're going to do a 4-time match. So for every $1 you give tonight, National is going to contribute 4, so that's $5. Or if you want to give 100, we'll do 400, and then we'll be $500 of dollars that will stay here in Iowa, that will pay for DOOR canvassing teams. It will pay for the church voter guides. It'll pay for all the printing, because one little thing about this Biden economy and the inflation, printing, we buy paper by the tractor-trailer trucks, and printing costs have gone up just beyond belief from when I started here 10 years ago. Actually, this year I was talking with we've already bought most of our paper for the door hangers, and I was talking with my supplier, and it was 4 tractor-trailer loads of paper to make the 10 million door hangers. And he said he figured out the calculation. If you stack our door hangers on their end and put them face to face, this year we'll be able to go from the Washington Monument to the Lincoln Memorial in a straight line of door hangers. So that's how many door hangers we're going to get out across the country. We're going to knock out 200,000 here in Iowa. We're going to put out postcards. We're going to do our full program here. We need your support. So if you would, go ahead right now, get your checkbooks out. We'll take cash, and we'll also take credit cards and put it in this bucket, whatever we're going to call this thing. But I appreciate you. Thank you for being here tonight. I think we've got a song and a prayer, and we'll be out of here. So thank you so much.
Okay, we're nearing the end. Let's hear from State Representative Brooke Bowden. She's going to sing God Bless America.
If tomorrow all the things were gone, I'd worked for all my life, and I had to start again with just my family by my side. I thank my lucky stars to be living here today, 'cause the flag still stands for freedom, and they can't take that away. And I'm proud to be an American, where at least I know I'm free. And I won't forget the man who died, who gave that right to me. And I gladly stand up next to you and defend her still today. 'Cause there ain't no doubt I love this land. God bless the USA. From the lakes, Minnesota, to the hills of Tennessee, across the plains of Texas, from sea to shining sea, from Detroit down to Houston, and New York to LA. Well, there's pride in every American heart, and it's time we stand to say that I'm proud to be an American, where at least I know I'm free. And I won't forget the man who died, who gave that right to me. And I gladly stand up next to you and defend her still today. 'Cause there ain't no doubt I love this land. God bless the USA. And I'm proud to be an American, where at least I know I'm free. And I won't forget the man who died, who gave that right to me. And I gladly stand up next to you and defend her still today. 'Cause there ain't no doubt I love this land. God bless the USA.
Wow! Bernie Hayes, Director of the Iowa Faith and Freedom Coalition, for the closing prayer.
My job is to put the icing on the cake.
Here's the icing, and it's good, I believe, by the grace of God. Josiah became king of Judah at 8 years old. His grandfather Manasseh, Hezekiah's evil son, who undid all the good his father had done. One generation. All it takes is one generation to wipe it out, right? At 26, Josiah undertook to drive the repairs for the Lord's house. In doing so, they found the book of the law, which probably hadn't been unrolled for the better part of half a century, kind of like where we are. When they read it before the king, he rent his clothes and wept and commanded that they should make inquiry of the Lord as to what would become of them. The prophetess Huldah confirmed the sure judgment and desolation awaited them, but that King Josiah would go to his grave in peace because of his penitent heart. But even knowing that judgment would not be averted, King Josiah went on a rampage to rid Judah and Jerusalem of any vestige of unrighteousness. He destroyed the high places, the altars, the images, desecrating them with the bones of the dead who used them. He put away the mediums and wizards. He commanded that they should keep the Passover, which starts next week on Monday, and they did. Scripture records that there was no king like him before or after who turned to the Lord with all his heart and all his soul and all his might, according to the law of Moses. In spite of the decadence and evil around him and the impending judgment, Josiah worked even more furiously to instill the principles of God's word and truths in the lives of his countrymen. I think we have our role model for our time. Many people see the evil all around and conclude that we Christians have a do-nothing God, but this has never been the case. Peter explains, "The Lord does not delay and is not tardy or slow about what he promises, according to some people's conception of slowness. But he is long-suffering toward you, not desiring that any should perish, but that all should turn to repentance. His patience is mercy." Would you bow your heads with me as we close with these scriptures, prayers of King David from Psalm 64 and 22. David says, "Hide me from the secret counsel and conspiracy of the ungodly, from the scheming of evildoers, who whet their tongues like a sword, who aim venomous words like arrows, who shoot from ambush at the blameless man. Suddenly do they shoot at him without self-reproach or fear. They encourage themselves in an evil purpose. They talk of laying snares secretly. They say, 'Who will discover us?' They think out acts of injustice and say, 'We have accomplished a well-devised thing.' For the inward thought of each one is unsearchable, and his heart is deep. But God will shoot an unexpected arrow at them, and suddenly they will be wounded. And they will be made to stumble, their own tongues turning against them. All who gaze upon them will shake their heads and flee away. And all men shall fear and be in awe. They will declare the work of God. They will wisely consider and acknowledge that it is his doing. All the ends of the earth shall remember and turn to the Lord. All the families of the nations shall bow down and worship before you. For the kingship and the kingdom are the Lord's, and he is the ruler over the nations." Father, you have a room full of Josiahs. Empower them and use them for your glory to turn our hearts back to you and see our nation revived and see your kingdom come. We ask this in Jesus' name. Amen.
Thank you for coming to this place with each other. Good night.